Hey everybody, this is Captain Frugal reporting for duty, giving you my weekly comic book review. So sit back and enjoy. Alright everybody, for those of you that know the drill, I go over a bunch of comic books for the week that I chose to read. Now I didn't have time to read everything, so if I missed something you think I should have read, let me know in the comments below. Also, you may disagree with me on some of my choices. If that's the case, that's alright. Let me know below. Let's just try to keep it civil. My goal is to bring back the old schoolyard days, where we would be in discussing what hero could beat who or what comic book was good and not. And I come armed with my trusty notes, so you'll hear the paper rattle because I do it a little bit old school. I do my grading on a scale of 0 through 10, 7 being average as a 70%. So I'm using schoolyard grading. But that's not all. I also use the League of Comics Geeks to give you other people's views as well as a brief overview of the comic book as well. So let's jump right in. Welcome back everybody to the virtual comic shop. I got my notes here. I am still dealing with allergies, so please bear with me there if I sound a little different. At least I don't have to use AI at this time. The first book I want to talk about is Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 21. It has 959 ratings with a 4.0 score. Very positive. And I give the book a 7.7, not as high, but that's usual with me. I'm a little rougher on scoring than they are. The writer is Jonathan Hickman, artist is David Messina. This book does have some interesting alternate covers as well, if you're into that kind of thing. We have the final meeting, possibly of the Sinister Six. Yeah, one of the members of the Sinister Six gets taken by Mr. Negative and pretty much wired up with explosives. So the Sinister Six, including Gwen, might all be gone. Well, we'll have to see about that. Really, Mr. Negative in this issue shows how evil he can be. We get some backstory on the character. And, well, that Mysterio gets discovered, gets captured, gets pulled information out of him, sent to the Mysterios to blow them all up. So the question will be for next issue, did any of them survive? And I overall thought this was a pretty good issue, to see what's going to go ahead and move forward. Looking at other reviews here, I see a lot of 4.5 stars and 4 stars, but I do see a 1 star here. So I'm going to look at this 1 star. This person really is negative in this book. It says, easily the worst issue by far. Dang, it's sad how disappointing this book has become. I'm intrigued to read this till the end, but oh boy, this poorly made series. Again, this is a bad issue. Is this a bad issue in a vacuum? No, enjoyable one. But the idea is so stupid. This. We have 3 issues left after this, and this is what Hickman decides to start focusing on? A side villain? Yeah, it's nice to get backstory for a character introduced 14 months ago, but it's not the main protagonist or the antagonist, and we know so little of either of them. Now, I'm going to disagree a little bit there. I don't know why you would call him a side villain. Sure, he's not the main villain, but this is the jockeying for position. Now he knows something that's going on, but really I put the focus maybe on the Mysterios because they know what's going on, and taking them out I think will have a significant impact on the story. But that, I could be wrong there. Now continuing on with what they say, I don't get how this book is praised as good Spider-Man comic. How is the Spider-Man comic at this point? It's like Hickman is deadly afraid of showing us anything related to Peter at this point. Well, I think that's partly because there's only so many issues available because this, Marvel's wrapping all this stuff up, and they've got to, get this story done. I don't know if that was the plan ahead of time. I'm curious to know what you guys think of that. Sure, you don't need to focus on the main cast every issue, but it would be nice if you focused on them at all. Remember the Punch last issue? That was praised because MJ was so BA. Yeah, well, that's ignored. As usual, why even bother with cliffhangers at this point? We see one panel of Spider-Man, and even that raises a lot of questions. It seems to be AI Venom. Is Richard controlling it? Has it gone rogue? Does Richard even know what it did to Fisk's men? Who knows? That would be interesting to follow, right? But stupid me expecting Spider-Man stuff in a Spider-Man comic. Ooh, I got a little testy there. JJJ and Ben do literally nothing. We are given an illusion that they have progressed, but in truth, they seem to be in the same spot as in issue number 10. So, 10 months ago. If or 11 months ago, sorry. If anyone wants to say this is good Spider-Man comic, I would ask you, can you tell me anything about this Peter? Even how he and MJ, in establishing their relationship, got married, the one thing that is constantly marketed. No? Well, screw me. I guess another issue focused on side villains and backstory. Okay, here's the thing. We don't need to have all that about how they were married and things. We've seen it in the original Amazing Spider-Man. So I get that. But I do see your point there too, that maybe they are not putting enough into the relationship, and that's what fans are wanting. I think that's what's happening here. I think this person is sad that they're not getting enough about the relationship, and that's maybe what sold them. You know what? I can get that. That is probably one of the key selling points of why this started doing so good. But then what, as my point is, you know, knowing that this has to be wrapped up, maybe that's why. If it was, because Marvel, I don't think they always intended it to be wrapped up this soon. Marvel has a tendency to do that because things, you know, whatever may happen behind the scenes, and that may be the case here. I'm curious to know, what are your thoughts? Are you still enjoying the series, or do you agree with that particular reviewer that the book isn't what it was and it's been going downhill? The next one I want to talk about is another series that's ending, and this is its last issue. It's The Thing #5. This was intended to be a mini-series. It has 115 ratings with a 4.4 score, very positive, and I gave the book a 7.4, so not terrible. Anyway, the writer is Tony Fleece, and artist is Justin Mason. Right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, the cover is pretty cool. I like the cover, though I don't understand why Diamondback is on there. One thing I don't understand about this is supposed to be a throwback story to in the past, is what I think is going on here. Correct me if I'm wrong, or is it just out of continuity? So that's a potential issue. It's got a other variant cover as well. That's it's okay. I think the standard cover is really what you would want here. We have Ben Grimm versus Wilson Fisk. Sort of. He confronts him at the end. But really what we get here is the group wanting to capture the girl, and this is sort of cliche. We've seen this coming. The Thing opens opens a can of whoop butt. What's to say? He's going to whoop some rear. He had enough is enough. But the ending, I think, this is pretty predictable. We've seen what was going to happen with the girl, but it has decent art, and it has the heart of the Thing. There's something about writing the Thing that there's something about him that's likable and relatable in that regard. So it was a decent mini-series. If you're a Thing fan, you'd probably want to check this out. If you're not, you'd probably want to skip it. Everything I see here seems to be a 4.5 and 5 stars. Not really seeing anything low on the board here. A couple of quick statements was, darn, this cover goes hard. Yeah, I thought it was a great cover too. A lot of people are enjoying this cover. So once again, Thing fans, you probably should get this series if you like it. This miniseries, only 5 issues. If you're not a Thing fan, you probably just skip it. And that was the final of that one. Nice little ending. Then the next one, talking about another final issue, is Daredevil #25. It has 160 ratings with a 2.5, mostly negative score. Now, I didn't give it as low as that, which is surprising. I gave the book a 7. Now, with that said, I'm not saying it's great. Okay, we have writer Salman Amnad, penciler Jose Luis Suarez Pinto, which, you know me, I butcher all these. The cover is okay. There's a cool variant cover with Daredevil on it. Looking to the right, it's sort of more like a painted look. I think it's a lot better. But none of these covers are really anything fantastic to make you want to grab the issue off the shelf. So anyway, this, you know what? As more I think about it, I'm going to give this score even lower. I'm going to give it a 6.5. Because here's the thing. This book has good art. And that's one of the things. The interior art is good on this. And we have Daredevil and Elektra fighting the Kingpin. The Kingpin is trying to become a god. And here's why I just lowered the score in my head. Because there was no real ending here. We have the Kingpin gets away. He takes out Daredevil and Elektra. And he gets away. And how they figure his closure is that Daredevil, Matt Murdock, and Elektra are looking like they're going to get back together. Now, the problem is, as I said, there is no real closure here. That's what they considered the closure. Now, we all know then what they're going to do is they're going to launch Daredevil with a new #1, with a new team. That's the Marvel way, because they can't keep a consistent book going with sales anymore. So they just keep rebooting the crap out of everything, and I hate that. So that's, you know, I'm glad sometimes when I do these videos, I think while I'm doing it, and hearing myself out loud makes me go, I'm reevaluating this. So I had to knock it. I get the knocks on the score, but you know what? Let's look at some other people and what their views are on this. This one is a 1 star. I have not been a consistent reader of this run, but this issue is not great. My biggest complaint about the smallest things, but I don't think it illustrates what's wrong. The panel time spent on the pandemic. Early on, Fisk throws the priest through the window of the church and Daredevil catches him. So far, so good. Even outside of everything else, Matt would take that personally. Then a random bystander comes up and says he's a paramedic and that he'll take care of the priest, so Daredevil and Electric should go fight Fisk. I'm fine with that part. Why is this given so much page time on the final issue? Okay, that's a good point. The same thing could have been achieved by a single panel random bystander pulling out their phone and saying, call 911. You know what? That's a good point. The emphasis is given makes you think it'll end with a priest getting kidnapped by Fisk's lackeys or something. Since Elektra makes a point of saying Fisk's ex-moral influence was delaying the cops to the site. But there's no payoff, and that's where I don't like it either. It feels like that there was a story going, but the run was canceled after the first several pages of the issue had been drawn, and they didn't even have time to redraw or rewrite the story, so it just stayed in the, even though it wasted valuable time, could be spent on anything else that needed attention. For this wrap-up is very petty complaint about a bad finale, absolutely, yes it is, but it's baffling and emblematic of how slipshod this final issue feels. Very disappointing. Now, some people agree that is petty. Let's look at another person that views it a little bit better. Here we're going to read part of this 3-star review. This is such an odd final issue. Nobody wins. No stakes are made. No payoffs are paid. And nothing even gets set up. Now, I don't agree with that last part. We get set up because Kingpin gets away. All that happens, Ahmed puts back into the status quo, which is where books been its entire run. That's true. Usually Marvel writers will, or even DC too, when the story arc ends, you sort of got to put the toys back in the toy box. Put it in the status quo so somebody else can give their story. This feels like he wrote a 25 issue expecting to get issue 26. That's my problem. And then Marvel called him up like, yeah, bro, you're off the book. I agree, and that's what it seems to be a thing I've been seeing here. People agree. It's just like, what happened? There was no conclusion. Here's another one, an underwhelming end to a promising, but ultimately underwhelming series. I wasn't crazy about any of the character work, but seeing it all suddenly undone is even worse as a reader. I'm willing to wait a while for a next run if the result comes out looking less scrambled. And here we go. Here's one that gives it a good score, because I want to counterbalance a little bit. I thought this was an unoffensive finale that kind of emphasized why the run wasn't very good. And this is a 4-star review. Just right back at the status quo. Whatever, hopefully we get some good Daredevil stuff next run. This was the very first run I started picking up earlier this year. Okay, it's supposed to be a year, buddy. That got me back into comics. Thank you for that, at least. Okay, well, maybe that's why they gave it a 4-star. The nice feelings of getting back into it. But ultimately, as you see, this book it isn't resonating with the ending, and I get it. How can you end a book without ending a book? Marvel's figured out the way. The next book I want to talk about is Black Cat number 2, 271 ratings with a 3.8 score, mostly positive. And I think that's a good sign to at least have that 271 ratings for a character, sort of a D-list character. Don't at me. I love the Black Cat character. Okay, I'm not making fun of her. I give the book a 7.8. The cover has interesting 1-point perspective. If you know about your art, a 1-point perspective is you take that point and everything goes out from out that. And if you do a 1-point perspective on this cover, it's going to point to one of Black Cat's main attributes that people love. This book also has some decent alternate variant covers that you might be interested in as well. Writers G. Willow Wilson, artist is Gleb Melikov, and well, there's part of that there too. Being the Black Cat. I want to talk about that in a moment here. First of all, Black Cat is becoming a hero to make things easier for her to be, well, a villain. And ultimately, it's getting watched. Tombstone isn't a fan of this. He's having her tailed and watched, and he's going to take care of her. This book has, I'll say, the Black Cat playing that part of a hero is pretty nice. I mean, let's be honest, she's done some of that already, so it's not too big of a spin. And here's the thing, though. This book has decent art. And that's a problem. A character like Black Cat, let's be honest, you need to put a great artist on it that really can draw the female. I think that would attract a lot more readers. And you see that on some of the open order covers. some better artwork on that. Even though I said the perspective is really smart on this, and this cover wasn't bad actually. But you want interior art to be top tier and things on a book like this to really make people go, because it has a certain cheesecake factor that certain people will buy into. The Sandman has a job that we all want as well in this issue. He's watching the Black Cat and trailing her. Who wouldn't want that job? So anyway, Tombstone is forming a plan to take care of Black Cat and Spider-Man. But I don't think he really knows that's really not Spider-Man. And if you've been reading the Spider-Man series, you know who that actually is. That's Norman Osborn. Overall, I think this was a fun issue. And looking at people's scores, I see a lot of 4 stars, 5 stars. I'm not seeing... Oh, do see one that only gave it 2.5. So let's look at that negative one. Felt a bit weaker than the first issue. The cracks are starting to show, and this new direction for Black Cat just ain't it. The ending, however, could mean there is fun to be had in the next issue. We'll see. Concerning Tombstone, I've had my full of this guy, to be honest. Should have picked someone else. You know, that might have been a good idea to pick someone else, but then again, you want to make sure you maintain probably within the Spider-Man universe. I did find one that was 2.5 stars as well. I'm not a fan of the narration from Black Cat. Also, they just kind of ignored the vampire in a way that didn't make sense. I feel like I'm reading a Spark Note summary of the story. Okay. But to counterbalance it, we got some good ones, like a 4.5 one that says, I want Black Cat. Another one that's 5 star. Very fun. I love how she's growing as a character and being the baddest. I like that too. We've seen her working out and training to get better, to be able to do what she needs to do, realizing that in this position, she can't just run away. She's got to learn to become a better fighter and be able to capture. And I think that's a nice twist on it too. So ultimately, this book is doing pretty well in the reader's eyes. So what do you think about this Black Cat? And this next one, I've seen a lot of negativity on it, and I have a variable view on this too. And that's Green Arrow number 28. 231 ratings, 4.4 score on League of Comics Geeks. I gave it a 7. Here's the thing. This book is okay, but the previous team did much better, and that's the problem I have with this book. I'm not saying it's a terrible book, but it is on the cancel block. I believe this one's going to be over here. But it's just not as good as what it's been. So the writer is Chris Condon, artist is Avzodo Pestianta Montepeller. Overall, I said, the previous creating team was just better, so this seems like a downgrade. The team goes out of their way in this issue to make the police look bad. Now, I get Green Arrow is highly liberal, and so it has a liberal skew. But what they do in this book doesn't make sense. Like when Green Arrow comes into the police station and has somebody in his arms, needs help, the police aren't just going to sit there doing nothing. That's just crap writing from somebody that's interjecting their dislike of the police into the book because they're not being realistic. Okay, they did have one police officer that seemed to be good, but of course, you know, that you got to do some kind of little spin. But it seems like that's the problem here. Here's a little idea. Rather than always writing a book about how bad social services are, which this book does, the police and capitalism, maybe try something new, like show some positives of how those things are doing, and the challenge and creating a challenge to Green Arrow's belief system. That way we can have a contradictory, sort of like Green Arrow, Green Lantern. That makes it nice because, you know, it's not always, oh, I hate the system, this, and he's always right. It gets a little bit of preachy. So there's also not a lot of story progression here. And there isn't a whole lot of variancy in views on this book. So if you want to share your views on this book, feel free to let me know. Now let's jump to a book that's really been good, and that's Superman number 30 with 536 ratings, 4.3 score, and I gave the book an 8.4 as well. That's a high score for me. Writers Joshua Williamson and Dan Moore as the artist of this. The cover is pretty cool, gives you a good idea, but there is some really cool alternate covers, the open order covers for this book, some really good ones, even though this one is not bad. Superman has found the mysterious hero known as Booster Gold. And boy, does he look like a wreck after all he's been through. Together, they must return to the present day to warn the Justice League. But Darkseid's Legion stands in the way. The shocking events of this issue lead into next month's massive next chapter with the All-In Saga, which I'm getting a little bit interested in. Now, this one here, we have Booster Gold. He holds the key for the hero's success, and even more so for the enemy's success. The new villains capture Booster Gold, and they're going to take his blood because it's infused with chronal and omega energy. Superman Prime, as we know, turned on Superman and the team. But it was just a ploy, because he was told only he could do something. That's because, well, the way his thoughts are and things is just different. And so that allows him to be the turning point that saves Superman and Booster Gold. And on top of that, he pretty much gets him, forces Superman out of there. Says, you got to get out of here, and faces a massive group of Darkseid's evil legion with very little help, putting him in a bad spot. So a very heroic move for Superman Prime, which was a nice touch. There are also a little bit of meta humor in here too, which is nice. We have Superman Prime say, Dan Jurgens is gonna be so pissed. Dan Jurgens is gonna be so pissed here. That was a good little twist there. Really, that story twist in this issue is good. It was a solid issue. The art's pretty good too. If you are a Superman fan in any way whatsoever, I think you should be getting this book. I don't know about the whole all-in and what that twist is going to do, but Superman up until this point, in my opinion, has been an absolutely wonderful read. Next book I want to talk about is Justice League Unlimited number 11. 468 ratings, 3.8 score. I gave it a 7. So mostly positive all around for this book here. Mark Waid's the writer. Artist is Carmine de Giamontil. Something strange is happening on Earth, and this was actually ties in to the Superman book as well. So we have the Justice League is really spread out all over trying to stop all this stuff. Well, there's a volcanic eruption going on. Also, we got Mr. Terrific is in a really big trouble here himself because, well, put it this way, Mr. Terrific is on his own and sort of like, think about the Tribbles kind of thing there. But it's loaded with parademons instead of tribbles. And so he's running for his life, trying to take care of everything. Red Tornado's trying to handle all the things that are going all over the place, as well as the Justice League everywhere. And there is a really cool Mr. Terrific acting like the Punisher type of moment here, where he's got a gun and shooting crap out of stuff. That was really cool, by the way. I like that. But I didn't care for the art style of this book. It was a little messy and made it sometimes a little hard to follow. So, it is what it is. The scores are overall pretty good, but there was one person here that gave it no stars at all. Says, I hate to be that guy, and I'm happy for those who like this, but this series is just not my cup of tea. So much happening every issue, odd pacing, zero character moments, and somewhat useless stories. The more important ones seem to be in Superman. Wow, that's a valid point there. I have to agree with that. It's weird, but the only issue I've ever really liked so far in this series was the Dark Tomorrow special. And I've had everything this series lacks: a simplish plot, good pacing, tons of character moments, plus underutilized characters, and a story that actually seems important. Some of the things you got to deal with like a Justice League Unlimited, though, you got a lot of characters, so it is hard for the characterization there, but I do see the point there. Anyways, for this issue itself, this was exhausting, most of the reasons above, but also because, well, the art, I agree there. The art is kinetic and chaotic. For some series like The Flash, fine for some series like The Flash, but I don't like it for this main JL book. Another annoying part of this is the Watchtower being destroyed again. That place is under constant attack. If I were a superhero, I'd never live there. Well, you've got to have good insurance. You need superhero insurance, which is our sponsor for today's video, Superhero Insurance. If your fortress gets wrecked, don't hesitate. Call us. You need to call us now. We'll insure you against anything. If Darkseid destroys everything, you're okay. If alien invasion comes and destroys your foundation, contact us. If your roof gets caved in by a flying nemesis, we're here for you. Now, let's get back to the story. This series will be on my chopping block, this person says, unless Waid redeems himself and focuses on the new Legends of Tomorrow team. That really is the only interesting thing for me so far for me. Okay, I get it. I do think this book was a little bit messy in that regard, so I think they have some solid points there. Are you enjoying this book? I'd like to know. Now, the next one I want to talk about is a little bit of a pretty busy, hectic one too, and that's Green Lantern issue number 27. Has 160 ratings, 4.2, very positive score, and I gave the book a positive score with a 7.8. Writer is Jeremy Adams. Artist is Izumiako, which I know I butchered. Cover's pretty cool for this. I like the style. There is some alternate covers I like even better for this issue, but the standard one is okay and gets the job done. Desperate times call for desperate measures. And we get that. I like the heart in this book. We have some really great Green Lantern banter, which is leading to foreshadowing here at the beginning of this issue with Hal and John. They're foreshadowing that something's going to happen to one of these characters. And the issue does a great job of creating a sense of urgency in this particular issue. We have the Starbreakers all coming to take on the Green Lanterns. They're underpowered, undermanned, and something has to be done or they're going to get wiped out. So the Starbreaker supremacy, part 5 here is pretty good. John Stewart makes a big move. He's known all along he's been holding back all this special power he's got from some of the other series we've read about. And with this major threat coming, he flies himself into a lantern and creates new lantern rings, powers up all these lanterns to rejuvenate all these lanterns, the red, the yellow, all of the spectrum. And the war will start next issue. What makes it good is we see the value of John Stewart. John Stewart's one of the fan favorites. He's right up there with Hal and Guy Gardner, and I agree he should be. He's an amazing Green Lantern. Now, do I think this character is going to be sacrificed and done here? Absolutely not. But he didn't know what was going to happen to him, and he did this for the team. I think that worked out really well and showed a lot. A lot of people love this book, and I don't see a lot of variation from the League of Comic Books reviews. So if you want to share your review, I would love to see it. And one more book, wrapping up another series. And you know what? I think it's time that this one wraps up. And that book is DC vs. Vampires, World War V12. You know, I like vampire horror books. I like zombie stuff better. But sometimes enough's enough. This book has 90 ratings with a 4.3, very positive score. And I gave the book a 7. I don't think it deserved that. I've noticed that the amount of people reading are dwindling down. People I think are just like, okay, this book is getting a little bit winded. Enough is enough. And the writer is Andrew Klein and Matthew Rosenberg. Artist is French Calamancio and Otto Schmidt. We forget the final. We figure out what's going to happen with Green Arrow, Darkseid, Robin, Supergirl. It all ties together here. It is a bloody battle. But here's the thing. It would help to have more defined art. Some of the panels, you don't know who got wiped out, who got downed. You can't tell. You really can't. Now, I will say the book comes to a decent conclusion, but how it gets to that also doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, we've got the new Green Lantern, Alfred, makes these giant chains for Supergirl. It makes sense, and then she pulls the Earth into an area by the sun so it cooks and takes out all the vampires. Because what happens is the vampires and humans teamed up to beat Darkseid. Once they beat Darkseid, vampires turn on the humans. So she pulls the Earth into the light, wipes out the vampires, at least most of them. Not all, because you can't do that, because that means they wouldn't be able to continue the series if they choose so later. So my question is, if this was such a bad situation in the first place, why didn't they do that right at the beginning? Come on now. I mean, really? There was just part of the problem too with this particular series. There was too much going on overall. So much going on that you didn't really have time to care much about any of the individual characters, and I think that hurt it. So I think they tried to do so much, and here's where it might sound like I'm contradicting myself. This seemed like a series that should have been done 5 issues ago. So I think they padded it with too much side stuff going all over the place, where they should have scaled it back and put more emphasis on certain characters that have more gravitas to it. And there's a backup story. Why is there a backup story in a final issue of a comic book? That just, that doesn't make sense. So that's my views. I'm going to read somebody here that gave it 0 stars. I mean, they did it, haha. I don't know, just towards the end, it wasn't for me anymore. Felt drawn out, but that's just me, so I'm not going to rate it because I don't want to ignore that it was still decent. It just got boring for me, so I don't think I'd be fair. That's a really honest, good opinion. Let me read one that's completely the opposite with a 5-star review. If you like high or low fantasy and you like DC, then what are you doing not reading this series? This was great. Hoping for a this isn't the end, because this world is still fantastic. I need a sequel. Boy, is that a difference of opinion there. As you see, so I gave you both. Let me know what you think there, and I hope we all had a great day in this virtual comic shop. I know this one's a little long, so I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all next week in the next virtual comic shop. Until next time, keep it frugal.